My name is Jordan Belfort. I was raised in a tiny apartment in Queens.
First rule of Wall Street, nobody knows if a stock is going to go up, down.
Just like that, I started my own firm out of an abandoned auto body shop.
Is that your car on the lot?
Yeah.
You show me a pay stub, I quit my job right now. Hey, listen, I quit. Yeah, I'm going into stocks.
Is all this legal? This is insane.
Trying to make a name for ourselves.
The Wolf of Wall Street. Rated R.
Welcome to the Average Nobodies podcast, but this isn't a regular Average Nobodies podcast. This is what we're calling the Average Movie Club. Make Movies Great Again has been folded into Average Nobodies for good. That's just the way it is now. It's not a separate podcast. You're going to get all the movie podcasts on Average Nobodies. So all you have to do is subscribe to Average Nobodies and you'll get all of our podcasts. There's no second podcast anymore.
I'm excited.
Which I think is good. And I think that this is a different type of format than what we did with what we all did on Make Movies Great. Mm-hmm. It's more of a retrospect on older movies and movies we've already seen, and maybe, you know, some current movie reviews, but I think that we want to use this more of as like a opportunity to recapture our feelings on movies that we love.
Yeah, so like a refresher on some of our favorite movies, and also, you know, going through them more in depth, you know, more than just kind of a review of a new movie that we've just seen, but kind of a movie that we saw, you know, a while ago, and then we recently rewatched it and kind of get to go in depth on everything surrounding it. And You're looking at it with fresh eyes because you're not, it's so far removed from when it first came out. So there's a lot more, I think, stuff to chat about on it.
Well, not to bury the lead, but for this episode, the first inaugural episode of the Average Movie Club. Now, take a step back. You remember there was a movie club on Make Movies Great. That movie club was just movies, new movies and old movies that we found that were available on streaming services. This is going to be just movies, like Ryan said, just movies that we love, that we want to revisit and talk about. This episode, we're doing The Wolf of Wall Street, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill,
Margot Robbie, Rob
Reiner. I fucking love
John
Rob
Bernthal.
Reiner. I love
That's
John.
a stat cast. I mean, it's not surprising with,
no.
You know, Scorsese's the king of the, like, Leo's clearly the lead and Jonah Hill's clearly the lead, but he's the king of stacking the supporting cast.
It must be so easy for him though, because he, like, who doesn't want to be in a Scorsese movie? Jonah Hill took how much for this movie? He took like
$60,000.
The minimum,
took
right?
The minimum, yeah.
For how many months of shooting? I think I wrote this down. It was like 7 months of shooting or something like that for $60,000. And like that, I mean, obviously, like, I would take that in a second. But for Hollywood actors, especially Jonah Hill at this time in his career, if you look at Jonah Hill, like he did, and so this came out in 2013.
Yes.
Jonah Hill was coming off of The Watch, which is kind of a, you know, okay. That's the one with Vince Vaughn. Mm-hmm. And then you got 21 Jump Street, amazing, like, cult classic comedy movie with him and Ice Cube and Channing Tatum. And then Django Unchained.
Yes. Like,
Jonah Hill does not need to take the minimum for, and he had a small role in Django Unchained, but he does not need to be taking the minimum for.
No, he was a solidified, really after Superbad.
Right.
I mean, he was.
Yes.
Comedically, he was in demand.
Yeah.
You know, that was his breakout role, but 21 Jump Street was huge.
Yes.
It was a really big movie. And, you know, now he does, they did This Is the End, which was a big budget movie. Mm. So for him, I think he in all the interviews I've watched, he just really wanted to work with Scorsese and Leo.
That makes total sense.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Yeah, that's right. And like he's in, I would be willing to guess that he's in 85% of scenes.
Yes.
Right?
Once he's introduced, he's almost in all the scenes, besides the Leo and Margot Robbie, you know, scenes at their house.
Yes, right.
With their marriage.
And towards the end, maybe not as much, but he, it is. This movie is a roller coaster. It's a long one. We were just talking about how I just saw It Chapter 2 last night, and it sucks. I did enjoy it, but it does suck when you're in a movie and you can feel it. You can feel the length of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily like bad, but you can feel the length of the movie. Like you can feel yourself sitting there instead of being engrossed in what's going on. You can feel yourself sitting in the theater and be like, I really got to take a piss.
Yeah.
So, where did this movie land for you on that? Because it's a long one.
It is. Well, I remember feeling the same way when I first saw it.
Yeah.
But rewatching it at home, and I actually rewatched it all in the same day, at the same, I think it was maybe like a 3.5, 4 hour stretch.
Yeah.
But I was able to pause it and go to the bathroom, or pause it and get up. And so it's so much different when you're watching it like that. Whereas when you're in the theater, especially if you're seeing it for the first time, you don't want to miss anything. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad, I think, just because of the way I watched it. But it's a long movie. I mean, it's a legit 3 hour movie.
Yeah. I think that I have issues with the third act. We can talk about that in a minute. But I think that the length problem gets solved the second you can watch it at home. Yeah, like you were saying, like you can pause it, you can move away from the TV, and it's great. It doesn't feel like a long movie when you can do that, which is nice. So, all right. So how do you want to do this? So this is our first one. So we kind of have a structure, going into this.
So what I was thinking, we can do a brief overview,
yes,
just kind of a synopsis of the movie, mm-hmm. and then as we're going through the actual movie, we can stop. And, if a certain part was one of our standout scenes, we can go more in depth on the scene. Okay. And then just, because some of it, like, it is such a long movie. So there are parts where the plot's moving along, but you're not going to remember it a couple days after you saw it.
Yep.
But I kind of like the format we have here, where general overview, and then we can kind of talk about how it fits into Scorsese's ridiculous catalog of movies, and then go into Leo. Really, Leo's the only one we can go in depth on, because this is Margot Robbie's first big role. Yeah. And this is, we kind of already talked about Jonah Hill. He was in all those comedies. So.
Right. And this was an interesting time in Leo's career. We can talk about that, but I love that we're doing this movie first, because there's a lot to say about it, and I get a feeling this movie, in a weird way, is gonna link to a lot of other movies we choose down the road. Yeah. Because we're both huge Leo fans, we're both huge Scorsese fans, and I have a feeling like there's going to be a web of actors and actresses that are going to fall into. So do you want to do the overview?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll go through it.
So for those who haven't seen it, for those who have seen it, the movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio, mm-hmm. and he is Jordan Belfort, who is a real life stockbroker in the late 80s and early 90s in Wall Street in New York City, and it kind of it focuses on Jordan. Leo's in almost every scene of the film, and as Jordan, and it charts his beginnings as a kind of an entry-level penny stockbroker, and then it goes all the way through to when he started his own firm, Stratton Oakmont, and in between, it's the people he meets, it's the money he makes, it's the debauchery that they go through, his marriage, his first marriage, to his, I don't know if it's like his high school sweetheart or whomever, to meeting Margot Robbie's character. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a biography. I mean, it's based off of the book that Belfort wrote, so I know they pulled that a lot for source material. And it's really kind of the highs and lows of the American dream, right? Especially in the early 90s, mm-hmm. where there was definitely more innocence than there is now. I feel like anything pre like 9/11, there was just this. Like, oh, nothing can go wrong. Like, we're gonna make all this money. We're gonna do all this crap, but it'll mm-hmm. never come back on us. Yeah, and that was definitely, it seems like, his lifestyle.
That also falls into it's also weird too, because like pre 9/11 is also really, and it's not, but it is the pre-internet age. Yeah. This is all they're selling stocks. I never understood this. They're selling stocks. They're rolling them up. One of the first scenes when Leo starts on Wall Street, he's working under that guy. You're going to be dialing the phone 1,000 times, 2,000 times per day, connecting our buyers with the stock, and then they sell it and they write it on a piece of paper and they roll it up and they shove it in the bank tube. Yeah, and they send it up. It's like, this is pre-internet. You're right. There's such an innocence to all of it. Like, what's going on? They're like simple computers with the green and black.
And you can see how easily they could manipulate it to their advantage, especially when you're getting that much commission.
Yes. Right. When you're talking to somebody, this is just an aside. When you're talking to someone on the phone, I'm talking to you. I'm selling you a stock. Mm-hmm. Ryan, I want you to buy this stock. right? I want you to buy $3,000 in Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
See, you're drinking iced coffee. And then you're like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then they hang up the phone and they're like, sale. Hold on a second. You're on the other line being like, hello?
Hello?
Did I buy my stock?
I need more information.
I'm sure there's more intricacies to it, but
Yeah.
like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah.
I think they purposely didn't want to get bogged down in the details because of how complicated it actually is.
Sure.
So, of course, like, they've really just kind of skimmed the surface. Like, Leo has the voiceovers and he'll kind of explain what's going on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I definitely think they wanted to focus more on, you know, the drugs and the girls and the money.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense because, you know, that I feel like that's what audiences want. Because a 3-hour movie on the intricacies of stockbroking. And,
Right. I'm sure there's more to it.
Yeah. So that's the general overview. It follows Jordan Belfort on his rise and fall, and it is quite a fall, but also an amazing rise, which I think is the high point in the movie. But as far as Scorsese goes, so this movie for Scorsese, 2013, I mean, he's been a filmmaker since the 70s. So, I mean, his list of movies is just unreal. I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't put it in his top 10. So
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where your top 10 is. Are you gonna? Do you
I have it,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, please give it.
So
to me.
my top 10 is Casino, in no particular order. Casino, Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, Cape Fear, King of Comedy, Raging Bull, Gangs of New York, The Color of Money. So I guess not in his top 8.
Okay.
I wouldn't put Wolf of Wall Street above any of those. I think those are my 8. So The Departed is really one of the only ones that is close in time. It was 2006.
Yeah.
But the rest of these, Casino, Goodfellas, those are in the 90s.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver was in the 80s, I believe.
I think it was the early 80s.
Same with King of Comedy and Raging Bull. Gangs of New York was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's had such a wide-ranging career, but as much as I did enjoy this movie, and it's definitely a Leo showcase, and should have won him the Oscar, which we'll talk about later, I don't know. I mean, for me, this isn't...
There's a lot that links it to Scorsese. There's also a lot that doesn't feel like a Scorsese movie. Like, there's something... This movie has a lot of... I'm trying to think of see if I should bite my tongue here. This has a lot of color to it.
Yeah.
This movie has a lot of color to it that is not necessarily indicative of, or, you know, true with all of his films.
Because he's more of a gritty guy.
Yeah, I'm thinking about The Departed. A very muted tone, looking at it, very muted tones, but also like the mood is like very, like everything's, you know, there's very...
Well, there's no extravagance.
No.
Like, even though you're following this criminal, like Jack Nicholson,
Yes.
he's a blue-collar criminal.
Right.
You know, he's not this guy who's on a yacht and, you know, doing all this crazy shit. He's just this guy who's living in Boston and is part of the community. And like you said, everything's muted. Everything's like blue and white and gray. And, you know, nothing's crazy. But this one was just like...
I mean, you have just the scenes from the trading room floor.
Yeah.
Like when Stratton Oakmont opens up in the big sky in the high rise. It's just like very colorful. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And like when they're on the yacht, when they're traveling, all that type of stuff.
I would agree though with all the movies you said. I would say that I'm not a huge fan of Taxi Driver.
See, I just really like De Niro, and I think it was just looking back at it. I mean, it was just such an inventive type of movie.
Yeah.
To kind of get away with. I mean, because he's, you know, the main guy. I mean, De Niro's character is this stalker.
Yeah.
Psychopath.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's just so interesting. So, but yeah, I could see that.
I remember when I started like getting on watching Scorsese movies, everybody was like, "You got to watch Taxi Driver," and I watched it, and I do like it. I think that I like this better, but I think that you're astute on all the other ones. I think that they are. Goodfellas is my favorite movie of all time. I've come to over the years like really found that like that is my, if it's on, I'm always gonna watch Goodfellas. Yeah. Always. Casino too, but there's a few scenes in Casino that like it's tough for me to watch. Sharon Stone is such a bitch in that movie.
She is.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
It really is hard to watch. It's a good thing. That's
right. That's how the character should be.
The character is so well written and so well acted. I'm like, I fucking hate Sharon Stone in this movie. So it's like tough for me to watch all the time. But Goodfellas all the time. Could watch it all every day.
Yeah, and then I'm a huge fan of Gangs of New York. Always have been. I just love that. I don't think this is better than The Departed.
No, definitely not. No. And I say that with love. You know,
it could be in his top 5, possibly, but
maybe.
I just think, especially maybe for our generation,
King of Comedy's so good.
It could be his top 5. King of Comedy's great.
It's a great movie,
and it's still having a legacy with the new Joker movie coming out.
Yeah, it holds up well.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in probably a couple of years. I should go back and watch
Might want to watch it before Joker.
Yeah, and see if I can like pull out some of the paying homage. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it really too with Scorsese, since he's been a filmmaker for so long, it does depend on your generation. Mm-hmm. So like if you've come up knowing him from a Taxi Driver, a Raging Bull, a King of Comedy, A Color of Money, a Mean Streets, that that might be your bread and butter, regardless of how great Wolf of Wall Street and all these movies are. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a slight that saying this isn't in his top 5 or top 8. It's just he's made so many great movies.
Yeah.
And it depends on your preference, too, with the director.
It's fair.
But either way, it's a wonderful movie. He does a great job in directing it. So I think before we go into the scenes, you want to talk a little bit about Leo at this time, or do you want to?
Yeah. So we already talked about Jonah Hill a little bit, but Leo was also coming off of Django in 2012.
Yep.
He was coming off of Great Gatsby. Now, I didn't know the order. I don't remember the order quite, but Great Gatsby was also released in 2013.
Yeah, I'll verify that, but I believe it was.
So
it was right before or the same year as Wolf.
What a couple of years for Leonardo DiCaprio. His role in Django, and I remember reading something about Quentin Tarantino saying that he wished that Leo could have been in a bigger role, like in that movie. Mm-hmm. Like that was his first Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yes.
Right now, and of course now he's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is just so funny. I hope we'll do that movie eventually once it comes out to home video. I didn't see Great Gatsby.
I did not either. I wasn't interested in
it.
I'm not and it also didn't get great reviews. Which, with that type of movie, I feel like it's going to live and die on your reviews. You know, I mean, maybe I would... I know I had no interest in seeing it in theaters.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how good or bad it was, but yeah, it on IMDb, Gatsby is listed the same year, 2013, but before Wolf of Wall Street. So, it might have come out earlier in the year. But yeah, then he has Wolf, which I think really because... Even if you go a little further back, so Great Gatsby based on the character from the book, like the main guy. Django, he was the villain. J. Edgar, he played J. Edgar Hoover. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to like Inception, Shutter Island. Like these are all kind of heavy.
Inception was 2011, 2010?
2010. Shutter Island was 2010 too. So these are all kind of heavy movies. As far as, there's not a lot of comic relief. There's not a lot. He's not playing necessarily this charismatic type guy.
Yeah.
He's a great actor, but it's not the charisma isn't there, nor does it have to be. He's not being asked.
Yeah, the character doesn't call for it. Inception's a great movie. I don't necessarily think of Leo when I think of Inception.
No, I think of Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a great point. And when I think of Shutter Island, I think of Leo. I think that's a great role for him, but it's a darker role. Like you said, it's not the charismatic role. Leo shines brightest when he's in roles like Wolf of Wall Street, when he's Jordan Belfort, when he's in Catch Me If You Can, when he's in, I'm trying to think of another movie that Django. I mean, movies like that, even though he's a terrible person in Django, like movies like that are where he shines. And it's unfortunate that he got his Oscar for The Revenant. When you see him in movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when you see him in Catch Me If You Can, when you see him in Wolf of Wall Street, like these are the characters that Leo is meant to play. And I think it seems like he has the most fun playing these characters. Absolutely. Something tells me he didn't really enjoy eating like a bear heart or whatever. He didn't eat like a raw something for the Revenant.
Like they filmed on location and like this super.
It seemed terrible. Yeah. It seemed like that's not what Leo wants. It seems like Leo wants to be on a yacht with Coach Taylor,
Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, Kyle Chandler throwing lobsters on him and shit. Like that, it seems like that's what he more lends himself to. So it is unfortunate. It's great that we still get these movies, but it's unfortunate that he's not recognized for this.
This should have been his win, in my opinion.
I 100% agree because this was before Revenant, right? This was before.
This was the one before, and I mean, if you look at, so the winner that year was McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club, who he was good, but again, that's Oscar bait. Like he's playing
Yes.
a guy, a person who has AIDS, and he's this kind of tortured character who wants to help out other people, and it was made for an Oscar nominee.
You can see when Matthew McConaughey is in this movie a little bit in the beginning.
And he looks like he does in Dallas, but he's
very skinny, yeah. But also it plays to his character on Wall Street.
Yeah.
A character that just sells stocks, furiously masturbates, and does coke.
Yeah.
And drinks martinis.
5 martinis at lunch.
Like that lends well to like what his character is. Which is good. It was a great role, but you're right, it was Oscar bait.
Yeah. And the other nominees were Chiwetel Ejiofor, 12 Years a Slave.
It's great. It's
which
good.
is
Great
good.
movie.
And Christian Bale in American Hustle. I like that movie. I don't know.
It's not my favorite David O. Russell movie.
No.
By far. But I watched it the other day. It does hold up. There's something about David O. Russell movies and like the characters and how like they're so, like they make him, he's like this fat, like wears a balding, but they make him so charming, and like the chemistry between him and Amy Adams is incredible in that movie. I don't want to get too into it, and I love Jeremy Renner. So
yes, that actually is a very good movie.
It is good. It's not even close to my favorite David Russell movie.
And then you have Bruce Dern, Old Man Bruce, for Nebraska. So Leo lost to McConaughey, which
did you ever see Nebraska?
No,
I recommend it.
Yeah,
Will Forte's in it, and
that's all I need.
Bob Odenkirk.
Really?
Yeah, and they play his sons. They play Bruce Dern's sons, and I don't remember the plot points quite, but it's more of like a I don't know who wrote it, but it's like more of like a look at this masterpiece in dialogue type of movie. Okay. It's in black and white.
I remember seeing the trailer.
Yeah,
but I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So Leo loses to McConaughey. And unfortunately, that is a little bit of a trend for this movie, because they were nominated for 5 Oscars, and they got 0 wins.
It's a shame.
So Best Actor, Leo, Jonah Hill.
Supporting.
Paid off, get a Best Supporting Actor nominee, taking the minimum.
Yeah.
Scorsese for Best Director, and Best Picture, and Best Adapted Screenplay. But the winners that year were McConaughey for Best Actor, Jared Leto for Best Supporting, so same movie.
Yeah, I remember that. That was And
12 Years a Slave won Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, and Alfonso Cuarón won Best Director.
That was
Gravity.
Right. And then didn't he win the next year too?
Yes, for Birdman.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But at this time, Scorsese already had his Best Director Oscar from Departed.
Yeah.
So, and that was something similar. So it's kind of strange that Scorsese's, was someone who had sought that out for so long. You want that. Look, you deserve this.
Very similar career arcs.
And now Leo is in the same spot.
Yeah.
Like, he's you could make cases. He's deserved it prior to this movie, but this was the one. This was the charismatic role. This guy, for all intents and purposes, is a douchebag. Like, you see this guy in the street, he's a piece of shit. Jordan Belfort.
Yes.
And Leo makes him this guy you can't look away from. Yeah. He's kind of funny. He's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, and that to me is more important, like we talked about, than going out wearing, a huge beard and a bear suit in the middle of the woods for The Revenant. But maybe that's why we're not Academy Award voters.
There's something about this movie that makes it almost jump off the screen at you, and it's the voiceovers, and it's Leo narrating the movie, like him looking at the screen and narrating the movie, breaking the fourth wall. I always loved that piece of Scorsese. He always does the voiceover. He always does the like in Goodfellas. My favorite line in cinema is, as long as Ray Liotta puts the body in the trunk of the car at the beginning of the movie, shuts the trunk, and as he's shutting it, he says,
"As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster."
And then he slams the trunk shut, it freezes, and then Tony Bennett comes in, and it's like so good. And then they do the same thing in this movie when Leo's driving around, like when they start it, and he's like in the car and he's talking about, he's like, I made $51 million. And
49.
And that really
pissed me off.
Because I was too shy of making $1 million a week.
The year I turned 26 as the head of my own brokerage firm, I made $49 million. which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week.
It's very similar. There's a lot, and they do a lot of the montages, because Scorsese likes montages. And not necessarily montages, but he'll start the scene and then he'll really slow it down. They do that a lot in Goodfellas.
Yes.
Like when they're around the table and they're all laughing.
Oh, when they introduce all the gangsters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they do that a couple times when they're at Stratton Oakmont and they're
Yeah.
doing all this crazy stuff, and he slows everything down when they're part. So that has the Scorsese feel to it.
It's what I'm getting at is it's too bad he didn't win Best Director for this, or it's too bad he doesn't win Best Director more often.
Yes.
Like it's not just a one-off like Scorsese's great and everybody just like yeah Scorsese's great, he's great. He's great.
Yeah.
He is one of the greats. He's the GOAT. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's one of those people that when you hear a movie, he's making a movie, I'm interested. I'm in. Right. I don't need the plot. Exactly. I don't need the actors. I'm in.
The Irishman's going to be 3 hours, 3 hours and 10 minutes. I'm still like that doesn't deter me. That's a long movie. It doesn't deter me at all, especially since I can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I really hope I'm wrong on the Joe Pesci sex scene, but
me too. I hope you're very wrong.
You never know. So just a couple stats about the movie before we get into our favorite scenes. Now, I think we disagree on this. So I remember I texted you when I was doing research on this, and the budget for the film was $100 million, which you thought was pretty low.
Yeah, that seems low.
It seems high to me for this type of movie.
I'm trying to think what would cost that much money. They did it
so Leo's salary was a quarter of the movie.
Okay.
$25 million.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So in that regard, I think it's even a cheaper movie. I mean,
so $75 million. I obviously not taking into account what the other actors.
Did anybody make in the millions for acting?
I don't know.
I doubt it. Right? Who would have made millions? Rob Reiner?
No. Yeah.
Not even
because
Margot Robbie was
young,
a very young, hadn't been in many movies.
Jonah Hill, we know, took the minimum.
Right.
Even McConaughey had a bit part. There's no way he got paid.
There's no way he got paid $1 million. I would have said that Jonah Hill would have been the second highest paid actor, and he might. Who knows? He might be, but I doubt it because he took the minimum. But, yeah, I mean, $75 million to do that, outside of Leo to do that movie. I mean, because I guess I'm just so shell shocked from how much other movies cost that are popular right now. Like Aquaman costs $400 million to make.
That's what I think. Because if you look at it from a superhero perspective, it's like, oh, really?
I mean, I'm trying to think what would cost money. I mean, I'm sure that the renting of that yacht was probably not cheap. I'm sure shooting on that was not cheap. I'm sure shooting in
and maybe like you said, the filming was so long that's gonna extend the budget.
That's true too. Over 7 months, or it was 6 or 7 months. That's a pretty long shoot for a movie. I mean, movies nowadays are you can be in and out 3 months, 3-4 months. So. Yeah, that adds to it, definitely.
So $100 million budget. It makes $117 million domestically.
Okay.
$392 million total. When you factor in the international. Okay. So not
necessarily a hit, but it wasn't. No. It was probably never going to.
But it was Scorsese's highest grossing film internationally. Jesus Christ, when you take into account everything. 8.3, sitting steady at an 8.3 on IMDb and 79% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What was 79% on Rotten Tomatoes? So that's the critic score, right?
Yes.
Audience score was 82, which I think I haven't found a movie yet that the audience score is lower than the critic score. I don't think I've found one.
Because it is kind of their job to pick it apart as a critic.
Right. It's a good score.
It's a good score. It is. Yeah, 79, 80. I mean, anytime you can get in the 80s, I think is good.
Yeah.
So good for them. I'm sure that's what they were worried about was the Rotten Tomatoes score. So now getting into the actual movie. So do you want to kind of go scene by scene?
Yeah, I have a few scenes written down here. I kind of just want to let's go through the movie. You have scenes written down?
I do.
All right, so let's just go through the movie and we'll each take turns just kind of like recounting some of the scenes and if it's a scene we both have. I'm going to start off with, I already talked about it a little bit, but the opening... I don't know if it's the actual opening. I'm trying to think. What is the true opening to the film? It's not. Is it him doing the voiceover?
Yeah.
Is it him driving in his Ferrari? Or he walks out of his house with the orange juice, right? Or that's he's getting yelled at by Margot Robbie.
Yes, and then so it starts off in the present.
Yeah.
He's hammered, drunk. He falls in the pool.
Yeah.
And then
slams the helicopter down.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then it goes back to his professional beginnings.
Right.
Briefly. So
Right.
when he was doing the like penny stocks and things like that, and he's with his first wife.
Right. No. He was doing blue chip.
He was doing blue chip stock, and then
when
they
he
had
started.
Black Monday.
Right. Yes, and then that went to shit. The opening of him landing, he's like, Margot Robbie's pissed because, and this is in the future.
Yeah.
She's pissed, and she comes in and she throws the water in his face.
It was heaven on earth.
Wake up, you piece of shit! Ow! Who's Venice? Huh? Who? What are you, a fucking owl?
But when he's leaving the house and he's getting ready, and he's like, I'm gonna insert the quote here.
Yep. On a daily basis, I consume enough drugs to sedate Manhattan, Long Island, and Queens for a month.
Okay, Mr. Jordan.
I take Quaaludes 10 to 15 times a day for my back pain, Adderall to stay focused, Xanax to take the edge off, pot to mellow me out, cocaine to wake me back up again, and morphine, well, because it's awesome. More to make them.
Cocaine to get up, weed to mellow me out, and morphine because it's awesome.
And he's like, and I love it too because he's like talking to the camera, but in such like an arrogant way. He's like, sometimes he's looking at the camera, sometimes he's not.
Yeah.
He drinks the orange juice, he throws it in the bushes. I love it. I in my head, that's an improv scene that Leo did, right? I mean,
right.
I'm sure. It has to be an improv scene.
I'm okay with believing it's an improv scene. I don't want to look it up if it was or not.
He takes a sip of the orange juice and perfectly wings it where like the glass goes flying and the orange juice like spins out of it. It's so good.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And then he's in his Ferrari.
Yes.
And he's talking about how he made 49 again. That terrific line, I made $49 million, and that really pisses me off because I was $2 million shy of making $1 million a week.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, my Ferrari wasn't red. I love that. He's like talking to the people who are doing the movie.
Yeah,
like,
that's kind of cool.
That's such a Scorsese. But see, I feel like in this movie it's amplified. This is not necessarily a Scorsese thing, but it's definitely amplified in this movie. He's like, no, it's like white, like in Miami, like Don Johnson's in Miami Vice. I fucking love that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So yeah, I love the opening of that. Scorsese nails the openings of his movies.
He really does. You know what? And it hooks you right away.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, all right, I'm in.
He does it in Casino with the car blowing up.
Yep.
With De Niro. He does it in Goodfellas with Ray Liotta throwing the guy in the trunk, like I said. I'm trying to think of the beginning of The Departed.
It's Jack Nicholson, right?
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
So yeah, the beginning is great, and then it's a necessary flashback because you want to, you need a little origin story. Yeah. It doesn't go back to when he was a baby, but it goes back to his professional beginnings.
Yes.
He's already married to his first wife.
Who is the mom from How I Met Your Mother.
Who is the mom from How I Met Your Mother. And then, so he's selling stocks in it seems like a decently sized outfit for him.
Yep.
And then Black Monday hits, which in the Wall Street world was this, just everything went to shit.
Yeah.
And then he has to kind of retrace his steps. So he goes to Robert Mancuso Accounting or stocks, the Long Island stockbroker.
Yeah.
Where we get a little Spike Jonze cameo.
The Investor Center.
Yeah.
The
And
Investor
that
Center.
really is the blast off. That is where his when he makes that first call, that is his, he finds out that you get 50% commission, I think, on the penny stocks.
You make 50%. Yeah. That's a great scene. He goes, yeah. And he's like, it's like, so if I sell what does he say? If I sell $8,000 worth of this stock, I make $4,000. And Spike Jonze goes, if you sell $8,000 worth of this stock, I'll personally give you a blow.
yeah. And you look around at all the guys who are in there, and they're just all schmucks. Like, they don't know how to sell. They don't know what they're doing.
Do you know what that room is, though? That room is one of the greatest collections of character actors that you'll ever see. It's like Scorsese gathered up every guy that you like. I know that guy. I've seen him in a million movies, and he put him in that room. They put them all in that room. It was perfect. I just want to go back quick. Matthew McConaughey, the scene with him having lunch, all time.
Yeah.
Little Tootski.
So the good thing, and I knew you were going to have that, that scene in there too. So I mean, that was one of my standout scenes. Probably one of the first ones after the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's huge for Jordan's character because later in the movie he's kind of mimicking McConaughey.
Definitely.
So when McConaughey does it with the martini, he's like, I'll have a martini now. Then in 15 minutes, I'll have my second martini. Yeah. And then he does that with the Bloody Marys when he's on his yacht later in the movie.
Yep.
He goes, I'll have a Bloody Mary now. In 15 minutes, I'll have my second one. 7 minutes. He does the same thing. But that, how many times do you masturbate a day?
Like, three or four times, maybe. I'm gonna pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
And the cool thing about that, so the McConaughey chest bump thing is something he really does.
To calm himself down. I read it, Leo, right? Leo told him to...
So Leo wanted to add that into the actual footage because he was doing that in between takes. Yeah. Because he's insane.
So I brought back up that scene because it's awesome, but also because when you're talking about when he goes to the investor center with Spike Jonze and all them, when he's on the phone and you really get the first taste of Jordan Belfort, like the Jordan Belfort that is gonna that is gonna take off Stratton Oakmont and everything. He's so innocent when he meets with McConaughey, and then he learns quickly, and Wall Street kind of, for lack of a better term, like poisons him, and like then when he goes to Investor Center, he sees like them as like he's like, I could take advantage of this whole situation, and he gets on the phone and he sells like crazy, obviously, like and you can hear it in his voice. He's totally different than the same person he was talking to his wife and their tiny apartment. First day on Wall Street, denying, like saying, no, I'm not going to do any coke. Like maybe he wasn't doing coke at that point, but.
And I think that, like, he got addicted to it. Just like you got addicted to the drugs.
You got addicted to the money. Yeah. That's what it was.
To just that power.
Yeah, right.
And like helping people, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. I love the Investor Center scene.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's huge and it's big. It's big for his character. He needed that, and it needed to be shown, like, why would all these people follow him? Like, why would all these people, obviously you had the money, but he had that insane confidence. Once he knew he could make that much money off of bullshitting people, then he was never going to stop. So that was big, and that's kind of when he gets his crew. So he meets Jonah Hill pretty soon after that, right?
Yeah, this was obviously before he starts his own little firm in the old mechanic shop. He meets Jonah Hill at that restaurant. He's having breakfast.
At the diner.
Which it's such a good scene, too. He walks over and he's talking to him and he's like...
Excuse me. Is that your car on the lot?
Yeah.
That's a nice ride.
Thanks, man.
Donnie Azov.
Hey, Jordan Belfort. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Actually, I see that car around. I see it around a lot.
Well,
I think we live in the same building.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. 12th floor?
Yeah, what floor are you on?
4th floor. Yeah, 2 little kids.
Right.
Ugly wife. Yeah. What do you do, bro?
Yeah, I think we live in the same building. I had the ugly wife, right?
And it's his cousin.
Yeah.
I forgot that. Like, he married, a character married his cousin.
That's such a funny little scene. Like, that scene where he comes out and says that it's his cousin. Like, they're at dinner together, him and Leo, and it's just like, that scene doesn't need to be in the movie, but it's hilarious.
It is.
It's so good.
And he's like, wait, like your cousin? He's like, yeah, it's my dad's sister's kid. He's like, so your first cousin? Yeah. Like, he's trying to say it so it doesn't sound weird.
He's like, she grew up hot, and all these guys wanted to fuck her, and I'm not going to let someone else fuck my cousin.
And then that leads into one of my favorite exchanges, and when he's talking about, like, aren't you worried about your kid being retarded? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, if it happens, we ship him off. We shipped him off
to a farm where they can have a lot of room. You run
around like it's a sheep or something.
Yeah, and then he like laughs. He's like, no, we'd like take him to a facility that would be suited to handle somebody like that.
Jonah Hill really gets all the kind of the pump of the best lines, most of the best lines.
He gets a lot. Yeah. I mean, when he first meets him, he goes, "You made $72,000 last month." Yeah.
You show me a pay stub for $72,000 on it, I quit my job right now and I work for you. Hey, Paulie, what's up? No, everything's fine. Hey, listen, I quit.
And he did quit his job.
Yeah, no, I'm great.
No, everything's good. I quit.
And then when that is, I believe that's Jordan's introduction to Quaaludes too. Right? Remember Jonah Hill gives them it. They're like out back.
Well, that's when he.
Or was that in the restaurant?
So I don't know if that's in the restaurant, but when he's out back in the restaurant, he's smoking crack with Jonah Hill.
That's what it was.
That's after they start.
Yeah,
I think that's after they start there. They go in the back and he's like, "You go smoke crack with me." Go in the back and, and Leo takes it and he grabs Jonah. Let's run around like we're lions and tigers and bears.
So that friendship or that cohesiveness is a huge part of the movie. I mean, those guys, they seem like they're best buds
throughout the whole.
Yeah, it's just it works really well. They have great chemistry together. Every scene that they're in is a great scene, in my opinion. So from there, then he has to get his crew, and that's again at a diner. It seems like our breakfast place. Yeah, and he's trying to recruit these guys to be salesmen.
I love
with the pen.
Yeah, with the pen.
And one of my favorite quotes is John Bernthal's character. So one of the guys, he asks, sell me this pen, and the guy kind of fumbles over it, and he goes, watch, I'll show you how it's done. So he goes to John Bernthal's character. He goes, sell me this pen. So John Bernthal gets the pen. He goes, all right, you ready for this? You got to write this down. He goes, I don't have a pen. He goes, boom, here you go.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Yeah, supply and demand.
There you go. And meanwhile, the whole time, he doesn't care about selling the pen. Leo asks him to sell the pen. Yeah. He's holding an empty bottle of ketchup. He's like, he's more concerned with the fact that the waitress still hasn't brought over the ketchup. And he takes the ketchup bottle and he just flings it across the thing and he goes, oh, now she comes. Now she comes. John Bernthal character, great character. How they introduce his character and they kind of do like little backstory asides, which is another Scorsese thing.
Yes.
Is perfect. He's in his backyard and he's selling pills to those kids. And he's like, oh, say hi to your sister for me. She's like, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. bring me one of her babies. And then they leave and he goes, yeah, whatever. And he goes, Ma, what is it, chicken? Chicken? He's just benching outside.
Yeah,
he has like
just like a scumbag. But
and then Sea Otter, which might be the greatest nickname in cinema history.
Yeah,
amazing.
I love Sea Otter.
The Sea Otter.
But yeah, like you said, like that first scene when he's in Robert Mancuso, you get all those character actors together. It's like these guys are gonna hit it out of the park. Yeah, and they do. They all hit their roles out of the park.
What was so fascinating to me is he introduces all those characters, and then they kind of like throughout the movie kind of get lost in the noise of like how big Stratton Oakmont gets, but Scorsese was still able, and the writer too, it was Terrence Winter, who did 28 episodes of The Sopranos, wrote 28 episodes of The Sopranos.
And Boardwalk Empire too.
Yeah, and directed an episode of The Sopranos. But anyway, they were so much character development in such a simple way, and like these characters, there's a ton of them, they're so very different from one another.
Yeah.
One went to the one they call Rugrat. He went to law school, like he went to college or whatever. Sea Otter is, and they all sell weed. He's like, he can sell anything, mostly weed.
So then really from there, once he gets his crew, it's Stratton Oakmont time.
And then that's the realization for Leo. He's like, they get the mechanic shop. They leave the place where they're selling the penny stocks, and he's gonna go start selling on his own. And it comes to the realization is like, we're selling these shit stocks, but what if we could, sell to a higher clientele? Why can't we sell to the rich? Because the rich are too smart. But what if we can trick them? What if we can trick them into thinking that this is stuff they want?
So you start selling the big stocks, but then you slip in the penny stocks too, which is where you get all the commission.
And then this is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, when Leo comes up with the script.
Now, the key to making money in a situation like this is to position yourself now before the settlement. Because by the time you read about it in the Wall Street Journal, it's already too late.
It's a fantastic scene.
So good.
And that's like his crescendo of confidence right there.
Yeah.
Because like if he can show these guys how it can be done, it's show don't tell. It's not, you guys got to do this. It's like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do it. The rest is up to you, but follow my lead.
Yeah.
And I mean that again, his confidence just keeps continuing to grow. And then really it keeps going when they have the first, which is one of my other standout scenes, when he has like kind of the first big speech at Stratton Oakmont, and he pays one of the sales girls shave her head, and the marching band and the strippers are coming in.
Oh, what a scene! And it's like, and the strippers come in from both sides of the office, and they like clash in the middle. They like it's like a fight scene. Like
it is set up almost like a battle,
right?
The way he films it,
and then like the music gets muted, and there's just chaos going on, and like that girl gets her head shaved, and she's like in shock basically, and then the guy hands her, or that girl hands her $10,000, and she just like looks in the money, and like you realize like everything's fueled by power and money. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's an amazing scene. I'm trying to think of like, not to jump too far ahead. The introduction of Rob Reiner.
Yes.
Is
amazing.
I love Rob Reiner. That whole scene, his flashback scene of his character at home with his wife, and they're watching, I forget what TV show.
We called him Mad Max because of his hair-triggered temper, which could be set off by something as innocuous as a ringing telephone.
Who the fuck has the goddamn gall to call his house on a Tuesday night? God damn it!
You're gonna miss it!
Oh, please, tell me something I don't know. I wait all week for the fucking equalizer, and they have to fucking... Hello?
But as soon as he picked up the phone...
Gene, how are you, Gene?
He'd affect this weird British accent.
Righto, Gene, that'd be great. Cheerio.
It was absolutely bizarre.
Fucking half-wit!
He'd hang up,
Missed it!
and then he's Mad Max all over again.
Who the fuck is calling here on a Tuesday night?
He's so good.
It's so good.
And they call him Mad Max, and he's brought in as like he's like a babysitter for all of them. And that scene with Jonah Hill and his what is G&L investing or whatever? It's like, do you know what this is? And Jonah Hill's like, I don't know. Like, Jordan, do you know what this is? I have no idea. And he goes, and Robin was like, yeah, I know what it is. It's a hooker service. It's a prostitute service. like he's trying to be so serious.
Yeah.
And
they're just busting his balls because they're making so much money. They're making more money than they could ever probably spend.
Yeah. And he's like, Dad, you got to see the girls nowadays. Nothing down there. And he's like, I like a little bush. He's like, I like bush. It's a great scene.
And then they have the Forbes article, which is set up to think like this is going to be big trouble for them, when in turn, now every young gun on Wall Street wants to work for them.
It reminds me of, and this is going to be a wild comparison, but it reminds me of the hit pieces, like almost like the HBO special that they did on Barstool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. Like Dave and them thought it was going to be like this great piece for Barstool, and then it ended up turning to be a hit piece. And then it just makes them more popular.
Right.
And like that was great the first day when he shows them, like, who are these guys? That they read the Forbes article, they all want to work for you.
Yeah. So that was turned into a positive for him in a good way. And it really kind of, you see that trend throughout the film where, something happens and you think Jordan's going to face a consequence, and he just never does.
Right.
Ever. Until he eventually has to. But even then, which we'll talk about later. But so the Forbes article comes out, and I think once that happens, and then you get the scene where the guys come in and want to work for him, that's really like the comedic heart of the film. Mm-hmm. Because the FBI is not really around that much. He's just about to meet Margot Robbie, where their beginning was all love and happiness. Yeah. So there's really no darkness in the movie at that point.
No.
It's always, under the surface, but there's a lot of good scenes. I love when they're talking, the crew's talking about to get midgets in the office.
Yes. Yeah.
And they just have the discussion about, like, you can't make sure you don't look them directly in the eye.
You can't look him right in the eyes either.
Can't look him in the eye?
No, that's a fact. I saw it on PBS.
They get confused and the wires get crossed. You got to look like the chin, like it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at your chin.
I feel like you're addressing me right now, but you're not, are you?
They're like the Mona Lisa. They find eye contact like wherever you're standing in the room.
It's like, make sure, when they come in, we separate them. And Jonah Hill just says, they gossip. They gossip. Let them stay together. They're gonna gossip. Stop talking. And like they have a lot of those scenes that are just
that's one of the opening scenes too, when he's throwing when they throw that's playing lawn darts essentially with the
little people.
Yeah.
But that I mean, it's just a very lighthearted part of the film.
You talked about quick how when Leo meets Margot Robbie for the first time and she's with her boyfriend and like Leo just like with his wife there at the party, just like
right there, very
wants
close.
to see, and the girlfriend of his wife is like, your wife is waiting for you. Like, we need to go this way.
Like, that's gonna persuade Margot Robbie to be like, oh, why is this guy hitting on me? And she seemed not to care. And
it doesn't, not to turn at all. Because she's totally into it. She's totally into like the danger of it. And then they're upstairs and they're playing pool, and
they're playing like whiskey pong or something.
Right. They're playing on the pool table with ping pong balls, and Jonah Hill's character is all fucked up in the corner.
Yeah,
and then they introduce Leo and Scorsese introduces what a Quaalude is.
Yes.
They talk about the Quaalude. They talk about how it was banned and they can't make them anymore. The FDA got rid of them, and like basically talking about how like there's none left on the market, and that's sad for you guys. If you fight they're meant to put you asleep, right?
Yeah, but if you fight it for like a half hour,
it gives you like an incredible high. And so then you see Donnie start moving in the background, and Leo says this incredible line, looks like those lewds are working their magic on Donnie right now.
Yeah,
and then he
the
starts
voiceover, right?
And then it's like that epic music, and he's starting to get up, and he like climbs over Leo's shoulder, and he's in his ear, and he's like, women's shoes. Steve Madden.
Steve Madden. Steve.
And he's like, what are you talking about? He's saying because they were talking about doing an IPO
for Steve Madden.
And Donnie went to college with Steve Madden.
Yep.
Amazing.
And that's a huge scene. Mm-hmm. So you have the introduction of Quaaludes, which play a huge part in the film.
Yes.
You have Leo meeting Margot Robbie for the first time at the party, and you have the Steve Madden introduced.
It's very much I would say that's the beginning of Act 2, I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, like, very much so, like, the beginning of Act 2. Yeah.
I agree. And,
that right there.
And then, so after he meets Margot Robbie, they end up agreeing to go out to dinner, and she has this great line when they're at dinner. And, they're talking, they're chatting, and then I forgot what she says. I think she says something along the lines of, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we out to dinner?
Yeah, but what? Married people can't have friends?
We're gonna be friends?
Yeah. You want to be my friend?
We're not gonna be friends.
And then really from there, it's kind of a short honeymoon phase with them as far as still being with the first wife, Leo's first wife. So she catches them in the limo, and I think right then is the switch for him. So his old life
is totally gone.
That
was the last piece of it.
Once she says, like, do you love her? He doesn't answer, which clearly means yes, I do.
Yeah.
So the last piece of his old life that he was hanging on to was his first wife.
She's gone.
So now he's officially pretty much officially the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah, definitely. They coined him the Wolf of Wall Street in that article, that Forbes article, but this is the actual transformation into that, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, almost like he that's what he'd become.
And I mean, that's what he always wanted.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if that's what he always wanted, but maybe
from when he met McConaughey.
Yeah,
that's what he wanted.
But maybe, I mean, I feel like a person like that, I feel like you always have that inside you. Like,
yeah.
It's just masked early on in his life when he's with his wife and he lives like a very like simple life. It was the drive to make more money, to be comfortable, but really, it just is like it just can't. It constantly has to be fed, and like it just escalates and escalates and escalates until he's on a gigantic yacht.
Yes. So then they have they get married and obviously end up being together. There is one scene that popped out that it's very memorable, and I actually didn't remember it for some reason. The gay butler orgy.
Yes, I forgot about that scene until I rewatched it. So she comes home early, and there's like a.
Oh, it was terrible.
They were right here. He jumps
on the couch.
And I love he calls. It's so funny that the firm is so huge.
Yep.
He calls in all his guys from the original
crew,
and like they hang him over the edge.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys from Investor Center, some of the guys he knew, they just hang him over the edge. I love it. Where did that money end up being? Or like it was just gone, right?
Yeah, I think it was just stolen.
Yeah.
And then from there you go to the Steve Madden IPO when they bring him into the office.
Yeah.
That's really the first sense that the FBI is catching on.
Mm.
So from there, because I do love that scene when Jordan like first meets Kyle Chandler.
It starts with Rob Reiner, Max, his dad, and he's like, "Listen, we're being investigated. Do not call him. Do not call the investigator. Do not like whatever." And then he can't help himself.
Can't help himself.
Invites him
It's
over
like,
to a yacht.
Then after it happens, like, did you bribe an FBI agent? So he has him on the yacht. He's drinking wine. It looks like it's the middle of the afternoon.
Yes.
And then, they kind of get into a dick measuring contest with Jordan talking about how much money he makes. And, Kyle Chandler's character saying how he takes the subway home from work and
wears the same suit.
Wears the same suit, all that type of stuff. Really, really good dialogue and a good tense exchange.
Yes. And it boils over.
It does.
Yeah.
And then eventually Leo just can't help himself.
I love how Kyle Chandler keeps his cool, though.
Yeah.
He goes, you know what? He goes, I'm going to be a hero down at the precinct when I take down, like, or when I get this yacht, like, taken away or whatever.
But he says it in a way that he's friendly.
Yes, same, like, tone. He says it in the same tone. It's great.
And then I love when Leo, when they're leaving, he starts, like, doing the money. He goes, take some fun coupons.
Yeah, I call it fun coupon. I just love the way he fucking does it. He just fucking...
Oh, it's so good. And then throws the lobsters down the stairs.
You know what's funny is, like, that is the life that Leo lives.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure he's not just fanning $100 bills.
Right.
Maybe he is.
Maybe he is.
But that is the life that Leo lives. Like, he lives yachts, lobsters.
Right.
Beautiful women, like that is the life he lives. But I can't imagine he's as bad of a person as Jordan Belfort.
No, I just don't think the cockiness.
I can't. I don't want to believe that.
No, that would ruin a lot.
So it is funny that like this whole movie is like this exaggerated millionaire, and Leo is like he has those means.
Yes, he does. So then after the Leo knows the FBI is kind of catching on, investigating him. Then they go to that's when the Swiss bank part starts coming in with Jean Dujardin.
Yes.
The artist. And Aunt Emma, Margot Robbie's Aunt Emma, who Leo has some strange sexual chemistry with.
Yes, they meet at at his wedding.
Yes.
At Leo and Margot Robbie's wedding. And she sees the coke on his nose.
Yep.
And she's like, I lived through the 70s.
Yeah.
Or I lived through the
60s, my dear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's obviously a very big part of the movie because now they have so much money, and they know the FBI is catching on, so they got to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Which Emma helps because she has a Swiss passport, and now I believe them first going to Switzerland is when he's super fucked up on the plane.
Yes. He has to fuck himself up on the... Well, there's the bachelor party.
The Vegas one, yeah.
Right.
Which that one's nuts. That's another Scorsese, like shit's happening, then he slows it down and you see
move you around the room.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, he has to fuck himself up to get over there because I think he's just like an anxious flyer, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, and he needs to fuck himself up.
He goes a little bit too...
yes.
Too far.
And he wakes up and he's strapped to the seat. And he's like, we had to do this, and like it does a flashback of him.
He's humping the
flight
attendant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was that scene obviously is very memorable. But again, goes back to there's no consequences for his actions.
Yes.
So he gets interviewed by Interpol or whoever it is once he gets off the plane in Switzerland.
Yeah.
He thinks this whole thing's gonna go to shit because of his actions. Gets away scot-free.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's human nature where if I keep telling you, like, hey, you got to stop doing this, yet I'm not really reprimanding you, why am I going to stop doing this? Right. So he keeps doing whatever he wants to do. And then they have the very funny scene when they're using John Bernthal's girlfriend, I think it is.
Yes.
And they're taping the money
Yep.
to him. And then they're doing all this money, and then Jonah Hill is like, what about my money? And like you just realize that's only Leo's money that they're sending. And then the girl says like, I'm not like, I don't work for you. I'm not doing it. He's like, sweetheart, you got my money taped to your tits. You do work for me. I love that line. Now, any other standout lines like during that? Because this is kind of...
This is starts the downfall of the whole thing, starting to the third act. Not any memorable... Well, I mean, there's a ton of memorable quotes, but one that I think that we might have like skipped by like in this time, right before he leaves for Switzerland, doesn't he have that blowout fight with Margot Robbie? The one from the beginning of the movie? The one where she splashes the water in his face?
Yes.
And he says... she's talking about how she has to deal with the golf people to get the grass resodded on the driving range.
Yep.
And Leo says,
Oh my God, you had to deal with the golf course people too! What a Greek tragedy, honey! Oh my God!
It really is, yeah. So they have that big blow up, but then that's right before they go to Switzerland, right? And I skipped over this. I forgot because I have my quotes in a different section. But really, this, when we talked about losing his former life and turning into the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
So the voiceover when the first wife catches him and Margot in the limo, and she says, "Do you love her?" He doesn't answer, and then his voiceover is, "I felt horrible. 3 days later, I moved Naomi into the apartment."
Yeah, right.
It's like, I felt bad, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that quote, and I specifically wrote it down because that to me was, all right. I mean, he's moved on. He's a new guy now.
Yep.
And then, so like the Switzerland part, that really starts to after that things really go downhill. So you have Brad and Donnie.
Yep.
So John Bernthal and Jonah Hill's character have the parking lot scuffle.
Yep.
Which Jonah Hill keeps from Leo.
Yes.
Then you have the lemon scene, which I do want to go in depth on.
Yes.
And then he has the big speech after that.
Yes.
So
let's do the lemons. Let's talk about the lemons.
Let's do the lemons?
Yeah.
So the lemon scene is definitely, I think, the most memorable part of the movie.
Yes.
Just from like a physical performance standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's Jonah Hill's character. I think he knows he fucked up really bad.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to tell Leo.
Yeah.
So what do these guys do when times get hard or they don't want to think about something? Let's do a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
And they end up doing the lemons, which they're like 20-year-old lemons. So they take them, nothing's happening. So they think they're like, they're duds.
Yeah.
So they take a couple more. And then I love the scene when they're in the basement.
Yeah.
The workout room.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think it's working. And then from there, he gets a call from his private eye, who that guy is hysterical.
Yeah, who's that actor?
He's an actual private eye. Joe, what the hell's his name? Because he had like a show on Fox. He used to be like a detective.
He looks so familiar.
Joe? Oh, Bo Dietl. Bo
Dietl?
Yeah, so he was a former New York City detective, and now he just like, he's an actor.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's when he calls Jordan and, basically says, you need to leave the house. Like, I need you to call me from
like a public phone.
A public phone.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they had taken all these lemons. Jonah Hill's still at the house. Leo thinks it's just not going to work. And it's the way they filmed and wrote this is fantastic, because you don't realize that he's going to be really fucked up.
Yeah.
So he's on the phone and he says something clear.
Yeah.
And then Bo is like, what? You slurring your words? And then he starts to talk and he just loses all.
Yeah.
And he skipped, because when they introduced the Quaaludes earlier in the movie, they talked about the different phases. And he's like, they were slow release.
It's a great callback.
Yeah, slow release lemons. So I skipped all the phases and went right to the cerebral palsy phase.
Yeah.
And he couldn't move. He couldn't talk. He couldn't move. And then from there, he has to get back home because Jonah Hill is...
He's driving his Lamborghini.
Yeah. I love it too when the driving the Lamborghinis. Like,
yeah, what was I forget, why did you need to get home for Jonah Hill? It was like something with...
Oh, because Jonah Hill was... he's like, you got to leave the house or something. Like they're tapping your phones.
Right.
And
so then Jonah Hill was going to use the phone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I think Margot Robbie called him. She's like, you got to get back here. Like, he's going nuts.
Yeah.
And then he's on the phone. Jonah Hill's on the phone at his house. So Leo's got to somehow get home.
Yeah.
And it's just great physical acting.
Yes.
That scene.
He's on the ground. He's opening the door to his Lamborghini with his feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, how does no one at the country club?
I think that
it was night time, but
if I were to guess, people would just be like, "That's Jordan Belfort. Just let him do his thing."
Yeah, can't imagine he's not fucked up all the time.
Yeah, just let him do his thing.
So he somehow, and then I like the voiceover of, I somehow got home like barely a scratch.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
On it, and then so he gets in. So he finally gets into the house, notices Jonah Hill's on the phone. And from what I read, that island in the middle of the kitchen, they didn't want it. But they were filming in an actual house, so they couldn't remove it.
Yeah.
So Leo improv'd, like, using it as part of the scene.
Yeah.
So he crawls over the island to try to get the phone out of Jonah Hill's hands.
It's so good.
And I love how Popeye's on in the background.
Yes.
And Popeye eats his spinach, which Jordan's spinach is cocaine.
Yes, yeah.
And when Donnie starts choking... He has to do the CPR. He does the cocaine, and I was listening to an interview with Leo and with Jonah Hill on Ellen, and Leo said it took 70 takes because Scorsese there was a guy with a spoon just off camera flinging ham into Leo's face, and it needed to like hit him just right.
Oh, right.
So it was 70 takes.
That's a lot.
That's insane.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But that whole scene is just...
It's
fantastic.
Chaos. Yeah, it's chaos. Yeah.
And then from there, he is really the downfall.
Right. This is when we find out that Donnie slips him the note that tells him that he's been compromised, right? And that obviously breaks his heart.
It does.
Yeah.
So then he's arrested, has a chance to cut a deal. Mm-hmm. He has to leave Stratton Oakmont.
Right.
This humongous thing that he's built, but it's either that or, you go to jail.
Right.
So it seems like he's gonna leave
until he gets up there and does his the one of the greatest. I'll put this whole thing in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving.
And everybody goes nuts.
Yeah.
Everybody goes nuts.
It reminded me of the Ric Flair speech, like. Back in the late 90s, Ric Flair was like off of WCW for a while, and he came back after like a 6 or 7 month absence, and he had this speech, and he just goes, "I'll never retire, I'll never retire," and like that was it. Like he's just like, "I'm not leaving,"
and he's kept to his word,
and he has, he's still kicking. But yeah, that speech is
it's something,
and he can't help himself.
Yeah,
and then they go back to the group chest bump.
Yep.
So that's a great callback to the McConaughey meeting. Do you think now that they added that in? Because if the McConaughey chest dump was improv, like would they have already had that in the script for the group to do it?
It's a good point. They must have. They must have, because
it'd be weird. That'd be very coincidental that they just had that already.
Yeah, it would have had to have been an after the fact thing. I would imagine that they probably filmed that scene with Matthew McConaughey very early on.
Yes.
And got it out of the way. Yeah. So probably, I would assume so. It was a running theme, and it's it continues on. Yeah, I would say so.
And I think they do a good job too before he does, because is that the time when he's talking to the girl, the woman sales associate, and he was talking about how she needed an advance for her kid's school or something. Mm-hmm. And she says, he gave me $25,000 cash, right on the spot. So it does show you, why these people would follow him. Even though we're seeing how he acts and how he's obviously a terrible husband and father, professionally, he's making these people money. And he seems to treat them pretty well. Mm-hmm. So you can see why people would follow him. So he has that speech. And then, that's clearly a terrible idea to renege on the deal you cut with the FBI.
Yeah.
So from there, things go really bad because you have Steve Madden starting to sell shares. Aunt Emma dies.
Right.
And then you have the yacht in the storm.
That was that Aunt Emma dies, the Steve Madden stocks, and then him on the boat trying to get to Italy, right? He's trying to get to Switzerland.
Trying to get to Switzerland.
To get his money.
and I forgot the actor's name. I love that actor, the captain.
Yeah, who was his name?
So he was Eli on Boardwalk Empire. What the hell is his name?
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Right. Yeah.
Shea Wiggum.
Yes.
So he's a great actor. So yeah, it's a small role, but I love the quote when they're going into the storm and then they see it happening. Well, first off, again, it goes back to the storm's happening. They're all in like the captain's deck, and he's looking over to Jonah Hill. He's like, "Get the pills." Like that's how they react.
Yeah.
If shit goes bad, it's like we just gotta get as high as possible.
Yeah.
But then when like the stuff's happening and Leo's just screaming, "I am a master diver. No one will get hurt." Like you're gonna save them from this 100-foot rogue wave.
It's a wild scene. It almost like doesn't fit.
No.
It almost doesn't fit, but it's a wild scene.
It is
on his yacht.
And then really it's another example of, because they get saved, I think it was by the Coast Guard or something, and then the plane blows up, the helicopter blows up and kills like the 3 people.
Yeah.
And that's another example of, he's like, "Oh, I called that helicopter to come and get us."
Yeah.
And then it blows up.
Yeah.
And 3 people died.
Yeah.
And he's, again, no consequences for his actions.
Yeah,
it's just, it's ridiculous.
Yep. But I mean, it all comes to a head soon after.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, he's arrested while filming that commercial.
Right. His banker rats on him,
Yep.
and then in turn, Leo kind of rats on all his constituents, which is unfortunate. You don't want to see that, but it's a true story, right? So
you gotta stick with that.
Yeah, and so for leniency, which is again like him getting out of like all punishment, true punishment.
Yeah. So they want him to wear a wire, and then he doesn't. He slips the note to Donnie.
Oh, right, that's what it was. It was him slipping the note to Donnie,
Yes.
saying that he was wearing a wire.
Yeah.
Right? And Donnie's like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah. And then that's really that's the big rock bottom, because that's when he like.
Because they find out he's telling them he's wearing a wire, which is a big no-no.
And then he gets into the physical altercation with Margot Robbie, punches her in the stomach.
Yes.
So that's really the big rock bottom. Takes the kid out, crashes with the daughter in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, it doesn't really get any lower than that. And then from there, shortly after, the FBI raids, Stratton Oakmont, and he really kind of gets a slap on the wrist.
3 years. He gets 3. This is the true story of Jordan Belfort getting 3 years in a minimum security prison. And then once he gets out, he does sales technique seminars.
Yeah.
Like
they get paid for them.
Teaching people how to do what he did. And he gets paid for it.
And I'm sure he made a pretty penny off his book in this movie, too.
Yeah, right. Jordan Belfort, actually, speaking of the book, while Jordan Belfort was in prison, he shared a cell with Tommy Chong.
Really?
Yes, and Tommy Chong is the one that convinced him to write the book. Jordan Belfort says that Tommy Chong was the one.
Why was Tommy Chong in prison?
I don't know. I assume some kind of
marijuana
drug charges. Yeah. I mean, I think it was probably only for a limited time. Now, I'm sure they didn't serve 3 years together. But yeah, Tommy Chong was in prison, in his prison cell, and he convinced him to write the book.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I actually now watching this again, and I always forget that this is adapted from a book. I think I'm gonna read the book. I think I'm gonna try and read the book.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's very, and I would love to see, and I guess we can report back on this on a different podcast. But if I read it, I would love to see what the true differences are. And of course, like this is tough because Jordan Belfort wrote the book, and like you want to know what is true and what is untrue. You know what I mean? Like what is embellished and what is true, and what did they embellish in the movie? What is toned back in the book? I would be curious to see where the line is drawn there.
And then the final scene really of Jordan and Donnie is kind of sad, like they're both down on their luck when he meets them out by the pool area.
Yeah.
And the thing I was looking up is because they talk about Benihana, like there's somehow Benihana is connected.
I'll pull that audio for you.
And then Jonah Hill's like, "I'll never go to Benihana again. I don't care whose birthday it is." Well, like they can't, you know what I mean? Like it's just a funny line, even when they're at their absolute dirt worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you actually get a cameo from the real Jordan Belfort. He's the one who introduces Leo at the end, and then it all ties back to Leo going to the audience. Sell me this pen.
What a story! What a story of this guy Jordan Belfort who really suffered no consequences for his actions. Now, I mean, the whole thing with the stocks is totally illegal. Like the way he was like they're on. Well, it's not that it was illegal, but like we were saying, this like time of innocence in Wall Street, where like you embellish a lot and you sell these shit ass stocks to people that don't know any better, and it's like it's not illegal, but you know, like you're not being totally forthright with your business practices,
right?
And then he, for all what he did, lived this lavish life. I'm sure he's living a pretty lavish life now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Let's look it up.
And I'm sure that they didn't get all of his money, right? I mean, they talked about how Brad, John Berthol's character, which also, by the way, he doesn't wear a shirt the entire movie. I think in the restaurant scenes, you know, even the scene
he's wearing a wife beater.
Yeah, even the scene where they're taping the money to his girlfriend, he's just wearing slacks and no shirt.
I mean, when you look like him,
right? Like there was that scene where Jordan's on the golf course and he talks about how he has people holding money for him in different people's names, investing stocks because you can't do it legally. I'm sure he had many more people doing that for him. You know.
So just so you know, his net worth as of 2019 is roughly $100 million.
Jesus Christ! So he definitely didn't lose all his money. No, there's no way.
Because when he went to jail, he was only fined $110 million.
The other thing is too, $110 million, and he still has. Wow, that must be nice to just be able to throw that money away and then still have it. I'm sure he's making good money doing his seminars, and I'm sure that he still plays the stock market.
Yeah. I mean, he's a genius guy.
I think he's probably still pretty smart with that, so he's probably still making money.
So now, when we first started this, you did say you had a problem with the third act.
Yeah. I guess my problem with the third act is that Jordan Belfort gets caught. I wanted the whole movie to be him throwing midgets around. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, not literally.
Literally, yeah. I know
you know what I mean?
You wanted it to be the party scenes.
But I do understand that it's a true story. I do understand that you can't just have the entire movie of Donnie pulling out his dick and jerking off in front of a room of everybody at a party in the Hamptons. But
ladies' shoes.
Ladies' shoes. Steve Madden.
But yeah, it does. I mean, because there's so much of the meat of the movie is just fun. And
it
then
changes tone.
It like shifts.
Yeah.
Just
yeah. Which kind of like, it's a bummer. It's a total bummer. But I get it. So maybe it's not a true. It can't be it's not a supported criticism, but that's just the way I feel about it. That I wish that
you would have enjoyed it more if.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed it more if this was like a completely even I guess Goodfellas is a story about a guy that was a real guy.
Henry Hill.
Yeah. And it also has a similar third act where like this third act in Goodfellas is, you know, Henry Hill goes into witness protection program, and. You know, and in this, it's, you know, not witness protection program, but it's something similar. It's a downfall. He rats on his friends, and which is like
kind of gets away with it.
Yeah, which is so.
Now, as far as side characters go, who's your favorite? I mean, the four I have are McConaughey, John Bernthal, Rob Reiner, and I included Jean Dujardin as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I took Jonah Hill out of it.
Yes,
because obviously you can't, because he was such a big part of that movie. I'll go with Rob Reiner. I just love
Mad Max.
He's so good, so funny.
Yeah,
and his just like that ridiculous thing where he like answers the phone in the British accent is such an insane thing. I want to know if that's true. Like it must be. Like how would you even make something like that up? Right? How could you make something like that up?
And I don't think Rob Reiner was the original guy for that role.
He wasn't.
He was not.
Okay.
And what was initially?
A close second for me is Brad, John Berthol's character.
He's really good.
A very good role. He plays a very good, very specific kind of. He's very much a character actor in the same character. But I did like Brad in this movie.
So it was another director, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Trying to think who I could picture in that role.
And I can't remember because there's a few, like Spike Jonze is in it, obviously. Yeah. Reiner, and there was another one too.
Another director?
Yeah, in the movie.
So funny how like they all just want to be in a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob Reiner doesn't need to be in a Scorsese movie.
No.
He has enough accolades to his name, but
if I can find it, I'll.
It's just an insane character. Rob Reiner, and just the nickname. Like, I love that. I love a good nickname.
Yeah.
I love a good story. Like, why is he Mad Max? Like, because he's always angry. You know, and like, why are you bringing him into Stratton Oakmont? Well, he's gonna like keep us in line. That makes total sense.
It does.
Yeah, it checks out. I love it. So yeah, Brad. What about? I mean, Max. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I love McConaughey, but he's just not in it. I don't think enough.
Not enough. Yeah, not in it.
Like he's very crucial to Jordan's transformation, and when he's in it, he's very funny and memorable. But yeah, I don't think I could.
McConaughey's character, and I don't know who he plays, but he plays a real person that Jordan Belfort really worked for when he first started on Wall Street. And after
Hannah is his character.
Yes, after he started Stratton Oakmont, Hannah invested in Stratton Oakmont. He like did business with Belfort. Like, so he is more involved in the story of Jordan Belfort's life than what the movie shows. But
I wonder if they couldn't get like if McConaughey was filming
maybe
different, because especially with such a long shoot.
But I would also imagine even if you had another actor play Hannah's role, I feel like that would be too much for the movie. Like, another storyline that he's not. So he wasn't part of the original like penny stock crew. So how would you really fit him into? You know, it would kind of impede on Donnie's. And I don't know how much he was involved in his life. So but I don't know. It would have been a lot.
John Favreau's in it, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
He's the SEC.
That's
right?
That's who the other director was.
Oh, what is it? The
FTC. Federal Trade Commission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Favreau. So it's Favreau, Rob Reiner, and Spike Jonze. Those are the three directors in the movie.
I love when they have the people doing they're going through their papers and they put them in the conference room and crank the AC. Is it always this cold in here? And he goes, I don't know. Closes the door. I know.
And so the guy, another fun fact, the guy who played Steve Madden is Jake Hoffman.
Who's that?
Justin Hoffman's son.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can find that Rob Reiner one. Unless I just made it up.
Ladies' shoes.
Yeah, so it says Mark Hanna purchased 25% of Stratton Oakmont and worked with Jordan for another 2 years, but it wasn't depicted in the film.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Dynamite cast, dynamite directing, just a really fun ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't find the Rob Reiner thing.
What would you, so in the spirit of Make Movies Great Again, which is not...
Sorry, Alan Arkin.
Who was Alan Arkin?
He was gonna be...
Oh,
he was offered the role of Mad Max. He turned it down.
Okay.
Rob Reiner fits a lot. He doesn't... I can't picture Alan Arkin being mad.
Also, Alan Arkin's a small guy.
Yeah.
Like, Rob Reiner is a big dude. I think it fits more.
Yeah.
I don't picture Alan Arkin being mad, even though he was awesome in Argo.
He was.
Yeah. Great movie. Loved it. In the spirit of Make Movies Great, we'll finish this with a thumbs rating. So in Make Movies Great, as you know, we did thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs medium, which is, it was okay, and then we get creative in between. So I'm giving it's a thumbs up from me. It's an easy thumbs up.
Yeah.
Maybe waning just a little bit towards okay, but like just a little bit.
Yeah. I do like a 92% thumbs up. Like, it's not sticking straight up in the air.
Right, yeah,
It's a little skewed, but I mean, rewatching it, even though it was so long,
it was a joy.
It was a joy. It was a blast.
I put it on, and Lindy and I were laughing, like just dying. Like, what an insane story.
Yeah.
What an insane person.
Like, imagine living that life.
And what an actor too. Like this. Let's bring it all back to Leo here. Like,
yes, should have been his first Oscar win, but regardless, it stands the test of time. I mean, it's a fantastic performance. He really, every scene he's in, he kills it.
Yes.
He does a fantastic job. I think he brings out the best in a Jonah Hill and a Margot Robbie, two actors and / actresses who are not known at all for carrying a film or being in these big budget Martin Scorsese movies.
Yes.
So I have to imagine his presence and his skill helped them be as good as they were too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he was just fantastic. So yeah, definitely a thumbs up.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Average Movies Club, aka episode 78 of the Average Nobodies podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Average Nobodies, AverageNobodies.com, and YouTube.com/TheAverageNobodies. We'll be posting this on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, so check that out there. And we'll also have a version of it on YouTube as well. No video, obviously, but just the audio.
This will be a video of us.
Yeah. So the next podcast we do, it will just be an Average Nobodies podcast. We'll get back in that and just do current events and just shoot the shit. But we will start thinking of a new movie for the next one.
Yeah, and make sure to stay tuned to Average Nobodies on Twitter. It's at Average Nobodies. So there we'll be announcing when the new podcasts are going to be and what the next movie we're going to be doing for Average Movie Club, because there's a lot of movies out there.
There's a lot of movies out there, and also I'm not holding this just to Ryan and I. I have the vision of getting Sean and Adam on here whenever they can. I'd like to do these in person as much as possible, because these are probably going to be longer form than our normal podcast, and we won't do them. Maybe we'll try for one a month, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, that's going to do it.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Ladies' shoes.
Steve.